The Celtics are doing the thing that I said they should do, mostly. And I open up the mailbag for a lot of questions about Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Prime time, dapping D White on the sideline. Rain and Jace, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day, and I got you covered every Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts on the weekend, which means considering the past weekend where they played a couple of times and the fact that I'm podcasting 5 days a week, I'm on like a 10-day podcasting streak right now, and it's going to continue because the Celtics play on Friday night, so you'll get a bonus podcast there. Oh my God, you better be subscribed so you get all of these podcasts dropped directly to your favorite podcasting app. Of course, you can go watch the shows on YouTube and get into the comment section there. I'm John Karalis. For those of you who don't know, I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years, and I'm doing it now as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. Opening up, let me learn how to speak here. Opening up the mailbag today. We'll get to how the Celtics team is a sneaky, fun, young team. I'll talk a little ball head brotherhood and Tatum attacking bigs, Jaylen screening for Jason, all of that stuff. But I want to start with the injury report, which does not sound exciting at all, except the Celtics are doing the thing that I said they should do. Jaylen Brown is out on Tuesday night against Brooklyn, which I'm sorry for the fans who are there. And Jayson Tatum is questionable. I'm guessing that Brad Stevens is currently formulating a plan to block Jayson Tatum's entry into the arena, maybe taking the tires off of his car, multiple cars, whatever, bribing police to set up a barricade around his house, anything other than trying to convince him to sit out because he does not want to sit out, which, as many people have said, it is very respectable. And I do respect the desire to play. I am not being, I really am not being disrespectful to his desire to play all the time or the fans who are there. It's just, I am looking at the big picture. I am looking at the desire to win a championship, the thing that everybody wants the Celtics to do. And this is part of the process. The Celtics are playing on Tuesday night. They have 2 days off before and 2 days off after, which means Jaylen now gets 5 days off. And that's just important at this point. Jason getting 5 days off would be important. You will still get an entertaining game. I promise you, it'll be an entertaining game. The guys who play are going to be great. And there's still a lot of great guys to watch. The Celtics team is obviously very deep. Everyone else is in. Porzingis is in. Horford's in. Derek, Drew, all of those guys are going to play. You're going to see a very good Boston Celtics team. It's just not going to be Jaylen or Jason, which I understand. Again, it's not ideal for the people who have paid for those tickets. But in the grand scheme of things, for a championship, resting them this day makes sense. There's a back-to-back coming up, a 3-game and 4-night stretch. So the Portland-Sacramento back-to-back, I want to see some guys sit the first part of it and some guys sit the second part of it. And then that San Antonio game next Saturday, the 29th, that's another prime opportunity to sit Jaylen Brown. So if Jaylen wants to go, and if he's worried about the 65-game thing, San Antonio is another opportunity to sit and get 4 days off while missing one game. So if he wants to play the back-to-back, fine. We'll deal with it. But San Antonio with 2 days off before that is another chance to get an extended break. And then no one should be playing in the back-to-back New York and Orlando. They should absolutely split squad that matchup. So there's a few opportunities here to get some rest. I think it's practical. It's practical to have this strategic rest. As I said in yesterday's podcast, the regular season is over. The regular season is done for the Boston Celtics. They have captured the second seed. There are some formalities to officially lock it up, but New York's not catching them. Boston's not catching Cleveland. It would take the utmost, like the most historic collapse on one team's part and the most historic run on another team's part for any of this seeding to change in the top three. And I just don't see it coming. So the top three is set. The regular season is over. What we have now is a 14-game preseason for the playoffs. That's how I see the remaining 14 games. And it's important to get the guys right, get them healthy, make sure they're playing the appropriate amount of minutes. Some games that might be 25 minutes, some games that might be 40. Even in a meaningless game, like I'm not going to be surprised if in a couple of these games that a guy like against Utah, we might see guys play 40 minutes just because it's an altitude. It's a great opportunity to get some more cardio to really stretch guys out and then sit against Portland and then play against Sacramento. That makes sense to me. Playing, if Jaylen is playing in the Portland-Sacramento back-to-back, play him 25 minutes in one game and then 35 minutes in the next, or 25 in each, whatever it is. That's all I'm saying. It's a 14-game playoff preseason, which is an extraordinary luxury for a team like Boston to have. You get to ease inflammation in these knees and ankles and hips, all of these joints that are kind of like screaming and throbbing. I know that does not sound appropriate, but it's true. It's tough on your body. The basketball season is very, very tough on your body. So getting the rest, getting these guys to a place where they're ready to go for a playoff run is the most important thing. So I'm happy to see Jaylen and potentially Jason sitting this Brooklyn game at home. And listen, it gives me something like it makes it harder for me to write about that game. So it's not the easiest thing for me, and either. But I understand the bigger picture here, the greater goal. So, all right, let's get into the mailbag. We're going to come back. We'll talk a lot of JT, including why don't they screen for one another? Jaylen and his fasting, Jason attacking the bigs. All of that stuff is coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Hungry Root. When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, you have an ongoing problem. No one has time. Work, life, trying to eat healthier. It's a constant stress. Going to the grocery store, buying things you end up not needing, ending up with no time to actually cook. Sticking to your health goals is always a struggle, but that can change with Hungry Root. It's a game changer and the easiest way to eat healthy without all of the stress. With Hungry Root, it's like having a personal shopper and nutritionist all in one. They take care of the grocery shopping, recommending meals and groceries based on your taste and health goals, from anti-inflammatory to high protein and gluten-free options. And the best part, every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. It's super quick, healthy meals that taste great, all delivered straight to your door, and it's a huge time saver. It makes healthy eating so much simpler. You will love Hungry Root. For a limited time, 40% off your first box and a free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out. Today's show is also brought to you by Monarch Money. If you've ever checked your bank account and wondered where did all your money go, well, it's very easy to keep track of it with Monarch Money. I spend a lot of money on food. That's just one look at me will tell you That is true. I am not lying about that. But Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. When you start using Monarch, you realize just how much money you're spending on things like going out to eat, ordering in, whatever it is. And now you can budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. If you're married or in a relationship with a partner and you have shared accounts, Monarch Money can help you manage that money and track your shared personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. We got a newsletter. I ask you to sign up at lockedondaily.com. Go to lockedondaily.com. Click on this Locked On Celtics logo. Enter your email. I will send you an email Monday through Friday. Celtics, NBA, fantasy coverage, links to Celtics coverage around the internet. It's a great way to keep up with the podcast. If you've missed a show, you can read about it, and maybe you'll decide you want to watch it or listen to it. So check it out, lockedondaily.com, and click on that Locked On Celtics logo. All right, we're getting into the mailbag. Mailbag questions can come in at johnkaralis.com/mailbag, johnkaralis.com/mailbag. You can send that. First of all, it's the only place I get questions. If you send them anywhere else, I'm just not going to see them. Send them in. It goes to my email, and every once in a while, I do a show and answer as many of them as I can. So let me not waste any more time and get to Bob's question. I notice the C's will often run a screen to force a big to switch on to Tatum, switch him out past the 3-point line, or I presume so that Tatum can roast him off the dribble and get to the basket. Many times, though, he dribbles and ends up taking a 3-pointer against really tall guys. What's up with that? So what ends up happening is the bigs, watch where the bigs are when he does this. When he switches onto a big, yes, there is a lot of opportunity to cross over and take them to the basket. But if that big is dipping like way below the 3-point line, if Jason feels like he's too far off, he will step up and shoot that shot. So a lot of times a big will give Jason a long kind of lead, a lot of space, because he feels like, first of all, you're going to live with something, and what you hope is a contested 3 is what you're planning on living with. So you get out, you get your hand up, and you hope that that's enough to deter or at least bother Jason. So what you don't want is him getting to the rim. So a lot of times these bigs will end up dropping just far enough where Tatum just says, you know what? I've got enough space to get this very clean, open look off. And that's what he'll do, especially when he sets the guy up to be moving in one direction. You don't want to just, if you cross the guy over and he's kind of like riding you on your hip, yeah, you can try to get to the rim, but if it's a much taller person, there's a chance that he can still block you. It makes things a little bit difficult. And this is where I think Tatum, this is where I talk about he needs to play off of 2 feet. If you're going to get that guy on your hip like that, and you're going to go all the way to the rim, and he's still in kind of shot blocking mode, you've got to plant with those 2 feet and go up strong and use his momentum against him. So if he goes up to try to block you, he's coming across your body and he's fouling you. But more often than not, what Tatum is doing is getting the guy off balance, getting the guy to take a few steps back so he can protect the rim and take that clean look from 3. That's why so many of these end up being 3-pointers. Benny asks, why is no one talking about Jaylen Brown currently fasting for Ramadan? He's not eating or drinking at all during the daylight hours, not even water. Of course, he's not at his physical best right now. I feel like he's too proud to use it as an excuse, but not too proud to give us a bunch of hints, hoping we would make the connection. I think that's what he means these last few weeks when he keeps saying he's not feeling his best going into these games. Definitely not criticizing him for this either. If anything, we ought to cut him some slack. He's going to be just fine for the playoffs. So it's a fair point, right? This is, it's a question that's come up for every player who has observed Ramadan and fasting during the day, especially with the time change now. There's a lot more daylight. So before the time change, you could hit that sundown and get like a meal in before the game and some water and some hydration in before the game. So is that part of it? I would think that there's probably some part of that. Yes, absolutely. I would hope that Jaylen is waking up early enough to get a full meal, get all of his nutrition, get some extra electrolytes and all of that stuff into his body. And then once sundown hits and he has a certain time, then he can start drinking water during the game and all of that stuff, and getting nutrients into his body at that point. People don't want to bring it up because it's a religious thing and they don't want to sound like they're criticizing him. And it's not a criticism. It's there's the difference between reality and saying like, yes, fasting probably impacts your ability to perform at the highest level of basketball. I don't think that's all he's been talking about. I think his knee has been bothering him, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of it is related to this. Some of it is also related to, he's been busy promoting his brand, his shoe, that's 741. Like he's been holding, events and pop-up shops and stuff like that. Like he's been doing a lot. Jaylen has been doing a lot. And I think all of it comes together at some point. But look, the Ramadan thing is a personal choice and certainly not criticizing. I have all the respect in the world for a person's beliefs, a respect for Jaylen for observing and practicing. And I've got no issue with that. So, but I think when you say, why is no one talking about it? It's because people don't want to sound disrespectful. I think like I'm comfortable talking about it because I don't think I'm being disrespectful. I think if people know me, they understand that I'm very open and accepting of everybody and their beliefs and what you want to practice and not practice and all of that stuff. I have a lot of love for everybody. So there's no criticism of Jaylen on this, but yes, I'm sure there's a little bit of something there that is difficult to manage. And frankly, I think that's part of what the fasting is about. It's a challenge. You're challenging yourself, you're challenging your faith, and you're challenging, your body. Like that's how Jaylen has put it. So, but I agree with Benny that it's the dynamic changes when the fasting ends and he's able to get back onto a schedule of eating and putting certain things in his body at certain times so he can be at maximum performance for a game. So I agree that dynamic will shift at some point. A question about Jaylen and Jason screening for one another. I'll do that when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball season heating up here. No better way to get into the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Super easy to use, available in over 30 states, and it lets you mix and match projections across different sports. So you can build your lineups, you can select Jayson Tatum more than 8 rebounds. You can select Luka Doncic more than 25 points. Prize Picks makes it super simple. You can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds and stay engaged all game long. And when you win, your money hits your account in as little as 15 minutes. So there's no waiting around. And hey, Taco Tuesday, speaking of Jason, remember the Taco J nickname. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25%, giving you even more value to your lineup. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Let's get back to the mailbag. Lee says, last time I saw Jaylen set a screen for Jason or vice versa was in the playoffs. Is this something they save for the postseason or something they just don't do often? It's happened during the regular season. It has happened. But what ends up happening is teams just switch that. The two best defenders on the other team are there. If somebody gets cross-matched onto one of them, that's when you'll see a screen. So Cleveland misses a shot. Darius Garland ends up picking up Jaylen Brown in transition after the rebound. Jason is being guarded by Evan Mobley. Jaylen will come over and screen to get Darius Garland onto Jayson Tatum. And that's the end of the screen. They're not going to set actual pick and rolls for one another. I would like to see it a little bit more often. Invite the switch and start to beat it with flips and other techniques that you can use to beat switching defenses. If you anticipate the switch, then you can actually use that against them and use that pick and roll as a bit of a weapon, but they'll only do it when there's a mismatch, when one of those guys has been cross-matched onto somebody and the other has the ball, and that's about the only time you're going to see it. So that's it. The reason for pick and rolls nowadays is just to get switches and create advantages. And when you run Jaylen and Jason together, you often have similar size guys, similar ability defensively. You're just switching one of them off for another, and you're not gaining anything. And so teams have done it. Teams don't do it. So the Celtics don't do it. The coaches, Brad Stevens, Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla, none of them have employed that as a tactic. So they'll do it every once in a while, but it's not a thing to go to. Adam says, is it me? Or do the Celtics have a sneaky, good, fun, young team behind the stars? I feel like I can see a not-so-terrible future in which the team is JT, Derek White, Joe Mazzulla, and a bunch of scrappy young guys. Well, yeah, that's probably going to be part of the future moving forward, because the second apron is going to really rip the team apart. And I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know how Jaylen is going to pursue the second half of his career. I have no idea what his goals are going to be. I have no idea what the team is going to end up doing under new ownership, whoever the new ownership is. Even if it's Pagliuca, he might have just a difference of opinion on how to handle things, especially when he's paying a lot for the team. It's going to be a different dynamic for sure. So I think Jason and Derek White are two priorities, because ball handlers, point guard, wing. Jason can play, up a position. He can play down a position. He can guard. There's going to be a third one there. I'd like it to be Jaylen. I think Derek White, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, plus scrappy young players is going to be good. But yeah, the whole point of this team is they're scrappy and fun. Peyton Pritchard, totally froze on Peyton Pritchard's name for a second. Peyton Pritchard is fun. Not as young though as you'd think. That's the other part of it. The Celtics roster, let me call this up. We say young, but it's not that young, really. Let's see here. Peyton Pritchard was born in 1998. He's older than Jayson Tatum. Sam Hauser is older than the both of them. So they're not the youngest group in the world. Baylor Shireman is, interesting, and Jordan Walsh is interesting, and a couple of these young guys have potential to hook on as a role player, but it's not the youngest team in the world. You know what I mean? So I like who they are, but I wouldn't classify them as a young team. So yeah, let me see. I'm just going to filter this by age. Jordan Walsh is 21. Baylor Shireman's 24. Drew Peterson's 25. Nene is 25. Hauser's 27. Pritchard's 27. Tatum is 27. Brown is 28. Cornette, Porzingis are both 29. Derek is 30 now. Torrey Craig's 34. Holiday's 34. And Horford's 38. Bunch of guys in their prime. A couple of guys entering their prime. And those are the young guys. Like, you forget that these guys played until their senior years and stuff. So, it's not as young as you think. Couple last questions here, just to have some fun. Speaking of Sam Hauser, Andrew says, what is involved in the welcoming ceremony when you get a new member like Sam Hauser into the Bald Brotherhood? Well, we welcomed Derek White into the Bald Brotherhood. What you get is a Shino Ballo. For Simpsons fans, that's the ball. That's the thing that shines the bowling balls, where Homer sticks his head into the thing and polishes his head. You get one of those. You get a nice soft chamois. So after you're done, you get one of those. What do they call it? Styptic pencil. Is that right? I don't think that's right, but maybe that's what it is. Those little stop the bleeding pencils. You need one of those, because this is. Every once in a while, you get a little bump, and you're like, oh, whoops. And it looks like you've been sliced by a machete. But you get one of those to get yourself through some of the bad moments. And a nice aftershave, cooling aftershave balm. That's it. So that's all. There's no patting of the head. We're all adults. But I did welcome, I remember when Derek first shaved his head and they did the Celtics gala, and I saw him, I said, one season being covered by me, and all of a sudden, you shave your head. He said, you're an inspiration, in his sarcastic way. But I welcome it. Sam did it for charity, and so I assume he's going to grow it back a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe he's going to go with it. Maybe he's going to roll with it. I didn't get a chance to properly welcome him, but I will say something the next time I see him. And Ryan, we wrap it up to say, Ryan says, I'm proud to say I'm going to a Celtics game soon. Is there any way to say hi to you at the TD Garden? Yeah, section 19, media section. Anybody that goes to TD Garden, section 19, come by, say hi. I am there most of the time before the game, unless I'm in the back eating dinner or talking to coaches or players or whatever. But I'll be out there as often as I can. So if you see me, stop by at halftime, whatever you can do. I love to meet everybody. So please do that. I'm encouraging everybody to come say hi. I love it when everybody does. Thank you for submitting your questions. Again, questions can be submitted at johnkaralis.com/mailbag at any time. I will compile them and then answer as many as I can on a mailbag episode like this one. So do that. And then make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you can get the show dropped directly to your device. And then I would love it if you get into the comment section on YouTube. Go there, share your thoughts with everybody, and then share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.